As always, thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring my art channel, and I actually also use Squarespace to host my original comic, which is called Gloaming Veil, and you can read it at gloamingveil.com if you're new. And if you're not new, I'm here with an update, a progress report, sort of. I think I'm probably going to just be doing these monthly, which hopefully will help to keep me accountable and also let you guys know what's going on. So I have had a couple of pretty slow weeks, admittedly, which is unfortunate, but I am getting back on track this week, and I've been thinking a lot about what I'm doing about the comic in terms of social media. And I know that some of you, actually probably most of you that watch my YouTube videos, are not part of my Patreon, which is totally fine. That's not to say anything, but it's just a fact. So I wanted to talk to you guys specifically about when I'm planning to start releasing chapter 1 for the public, so not behind a paywall. And that is actually going to be very soon. So I'm planning to start resuming weekly uploads about 2 weeks from now, at which point the Patreon will be 10 pages ahead of the public schedule. I wasn't sure exactly when I was going to start posting the pages, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and I figured it's time to resume the public post because I have built up a decent enough backlog with the pages I've already posted on Patreon, and I already have, I'm basically done chapter 1 at this point, probably a couple days more, which is unfortunately behind my schedule, but alas, in any case. So I have more than enough pages to last me for a few months, I think, at this point, and I am not planning to take a pause this time, and I'm just gonna straight jump into the production of chapter 2. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm pretty confident. As far as when I'm planning to do the Kickstarter for the first physical copy, it's still hopefully going to be October, even though I did fall behind schedule. And if I'm being totally realistic, I'm probably gonna fall behind schedule again, no doubt. That's just how life goes. There's a reason why I fell behind for the past couple of weeks, is because I had some other things to deal with that have nothing to do with my work, and yeah, that's just how it goes. But I'm gonna do my best and try to stick to the schedule as much as I can, and obviously I'll keep you guys posted. One of the biggest things that I've been just lamenting over the past month or so is how it became super normal for me to just not be active on social media anymore. I fell into a sort of routine where I just go about my life, my daily activities at home, and working on the comic production, and essentially just mostly focusing on getting the work done and posting on Patreon behind the scenes now and again, mostly doing page uploads. And because I'm doing everything myself except for flatting, thank God I have help for flatting, but even doing the lettering and all that stuff, it actually takes so much longer than I ever expect. And for that reason, basically all of my attention goes into the production, and I got very used to that, and I kind of stopped posting on social media kind of completely at this point, I think. At least for a couple of months. I don't even remember the last time I made an Instagram post, and it isn't right. I can't keep going like this. Obviously, I can't just work in a vacuum, and I'm gonna need to find a way to reconnect with my existing audience. And so I've been contemplating how to kind of get back to social media, because it just feels so unnatural now, and every time I start to think about it, just the very idea that it has to be so contrived that I have to think about it before making any posts is honestly not a great feeling, but it's something I have to get over, because I can't just squander the audience that I still have. I'm super grateful that there are still people there, and I need to just get back to doing it, essentially. I don't know why all of a sudden I've developed this skittishness around posting publicly. I don't know what it is. It's not like I don't want to share my work. I'm actually very, very happy with how chapter 1 has been coming along, and even though I am a little bit back and forth as far as how long it's taking and how much work I have to put in, I'm still extremely glad that I did choose to just take it to a level that I'm happy with instead of trying to cut corners and save time and like trying to rush and whatnot. So yeah, I think I'm in a pretty good place. So let me take a quick minute to tell you about Squarespace, my sponsor and the #1 platform for building my websites. I used to be super weary of making a website due to frustration with technology and just feeling lost and frankly, just being too lazy to figure it out. And thankfully, Squarespace has proved to be the perfect solution to all of that because of how easy and straightforward their website engine is to use. They have an amazing dynamic website building platform that can generate a website according to your specific needs, or you can just use one of the many pre-built templates and customize them to get the perfect website for you. The customization is honestly amazing and you can make your website as elaborate as you want. Squarespace also allows you to have all the business options like a shop or a paid community available to you down the line whenever you need them. It's an absolute must to have a nice website showcasing your work if you want to be a full-time professional artist, so it's best to get started as soon as you can, which you can do for free. So once you build your dream website and are ready to show it to the world, head to squarespace.com/cosmicspectrumart to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Happy website building, and now back to the video. Before I ramble too long about what's going on, I mostly wanted to make this video to just let you guys know what I've been up to and what my plans are, because they have shifted slightly in the recent couple of weeks when I've been thinking about this stuff. And I also wanted to show you this process of the first 2 pages of chapter 1. It's not the full process, it's just the inks, but I thought you guys might find it interesting to see how I go about actually using the references for the characters that I've been designing, and usually I just draw them once, so I just have the one reference and I pull it up when I need it in order to draw the character from a slightly different angle or with a different facial expression. And it is a pretty challenging thing to do, I find, so I thought it's funny how this video actually captures how much longer it takes me to draw characters that have been designed and have to look a certain way versus characters that are just background people that I can draw quickly once and forget about. So that's kind of an interesting thing to see, I thought. And yeah, these are the 2 pages that I was basically talking about. I mean, not 2 pages, probably like 4 or 5 pages are very populated with characters, and this is the reason why it took me so long to get started on the production of chapter 1, because even though a long time ago I pulled the trigger to do the storyboards or the thumbnails for it, in the thumbnails I essentially just completely ignored the designs and then just figured out the placement for each character. So by the time I wanted to get around to actually doing the base sketch layouts for each page, I needed to design the characters first, and the designing of the characters is what ended up taking me weeks, because the first scene, as you can see, is a funeral, and a lot of the people that are attending this funeral are characters that will appear again probably many times at one point or another, even if it's not right away. Like, I couldn't just draw random people, I had to figure out what they're gonna look like, and some of them are characters that have quite a substantial backstory that I will have to include in the comic at one point way down the line, and so I had to really put myself in the right headspace and think about their backstories, and because, you know, obviously I have to take it into consideration when I do their designs, and it was a whole thing, and that's why it ended up dragging for so long. So yeah, this double page spread actually took me, I think, like 5 hours at least to ink altogether. I think it was about 5 hours, because when I was editing this footage, I had all the footage. Afterwards I trimmed it just a bit, like I skipped a couple of parts just to make the video less lengthy, and I did some math, and it appears that 5 hours was the total time, which is a very long time for just inking and only 2 pages. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's pretty difficult to get a likeness of all these characters that I've only drawn once before, and so I really had to take my time on their faces, and that's where the majority of the time went, I think, because everything else went relatively quickly. But yeah, so I was also very rusty at this point because this was fully like serious cleanup production that I hadn't done in a long time. Like, I don't think I remember inking comics, and like it's been an unfortunately long time that passed between me working on the prologue and these first pages. So I was very rusty, and I had to basically rediscover what tools I prefer and like kind of reestablish which brushes I want to use. And there's certain little things that I wasn't sure how I was going to handle. Like, you see these blacked out areas that are essentially filled with black. I wasn't sure that I was going to do that, but I decided that if I decide to color everything, then it would take way longer. So I figured it only makes sense to give myself a little bit of a break and include some filled areas, and then deciding which areas are filled and how to fill them exactly was also a small conundrum. Like, I did it more or less in a similar way that I approached this when I was working on Grimoire Noir, but some of the little nitpicky details that come to mind that probably people don't think about is those white lines that serve to clarify what's going on within the silhouette. I was trying to decide whether I just want to use a white brush or if I want to take away from line art by using an eraser. And then it was like a whole problem because I couldn't find an eraser that was the right texture, because obviously it's a lot easier to color underneath, like to put all the flats underneath if the white lines are not actually white, if they're just transparent. But unfortunately, I couldn't get a proper eraser brush to accommodate the texture that I needed, so I ended up like actually using white lines. So for that purpose, when I was working on the finalizing and the colors of these 2 pages, I had to make an extra layer on top of everything, put it to multiply, and just go over those white lines to make them go away, to fix them with some sort of color that matched the scene. I unfortunately don't think I actually recorded the process of coloring and finalizing these 2 pages because I had to approach them with so much trepidation. I was very nervous about the result because even though the prologue is technically full color, I just found that the mood was very specific in the prologue, and the color scheme ended up actually being quite limited because of the situation and like the background, like where the scene took place. And so it was almost like a monochromatic feel, which made me feel very comfortable because there wasn't a whole lot going on as far as colors. Whereas in this scene, it's quite different because there are way more man-made structures, and there's so many people, and they're all wearing different things, and basically I had to take way more things into consideration when it comes to coloring, and it was making me very nervous because, as you guys probably know, I almost never do full scenes in my artwork. So when I do illustrations, it's more often than not my client work has been like character design, costume design, for the most part, so it's always just a single character. And even if I do illustration work, it's usually also a single character with like a very simplistic background, and I have seldom done things with a background, which, you know, this may sound insane because I completed an entire graphic novel filled with background, so I guess I am kind of lying when I say that, but for whatever reason, it always just feels like it's a weakness, even though it's not. Like, I don't think backgrounds are a weakness for me, honestly. Like, I don't find it difficult to do them, but because I took such a long break from drawing full scenes with backgrounds, I was very nervous about doing it again, and I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. And yeah, actually, this kind of brings me to something I wanted to talk about for a little while, I suppose, because this video is essentially just an update to tell you guys what's been going on. One of the things that I've been thinking about recently is that I had to do so much thinking and kind of, I guess a good word for this would probably be soul searching, to figure out why it is that I just kept putting off working on this comic for so many years and just moving at a snail's pace. And even though I achieved the self-proclaimed situation that I needed to achieve in order to feel comfortable focusing more on the comic a long time ago. So at that point, I had to figure out what mental barriers I had to battle with in order to just do it and just get into working on it. And after thinking about it for some time, I did realize that most of it was just fear, which is pretty standard. I think that's most people's problem, because jumping into such a big project and essentially just saying no to everything else is a very difficult decision to make. I didn't take it lightly, and most of the fears that haunt me about doing this are like, it's unclear whether it's worth all this work, if you know what I mean, because I know that it means a lot to me and I think it's worth it, but I'm not doing it just for myself, and I'm doing it in order to share with other people, and because I don't know how other people are going to think about this project, whether they're going to be interested in the story, how it's going to resonate, if it's going to resonate. I don't know any of these things. And so it is very scary to just plunge into working on this. And I was thinking recently about how that just doesn't go away, even though I noticed that it's the biggest thing that was holding me back, and I was just afraid to jump into it and just have some faith in what I think is important. And I decided to do it, and obviously I have committed and have been working on it ever since. But even now, I still feel like I'm not sure, like half the time, you know what I mean? And it's sometimes a little bit difficult to manage the contrast in how I feel about it, because I go from like insane levels of excitement about the project, because I also aside from doing the art, I have been diving back into the script more often the past few weeks, because I decided to get further ahead in it and just like essentially write a lot more of the script before I get going with more more of the production, because the further along I get into it, obviously, the less ability I have to change things. And even though the first chapter is super solid, the further into the script you go, the more opportunities there are for changes and etc. Anyhow, the reason why... What was I talking about? Yeah, I get super enthusiastic when I work on the script. I do have a lot of faith in it. The story is quite long, but I do think that it's relatively well planned, and I know where I want to go with it. And even though I haven't written everything out, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to get to the final destination, I just have faith that it's going to come together, because every time I work on the script, a bunch of things just somehow miraculously resolve themselves, and everything seems to fit so neatly, like a puzzle that was already I feel like I'm putting together a puzzle that somebody else gave me to put together, if that makes any sense. And I do have a lot of faith in it, but then I'll have another day where I feel super lethargic, and then I suddenly start to feel very insecure about doing this, because taking a step out of my life and trying to see what I'm doing from an outsider's perspective, like sometimes I'll do that as a mental exercise, and it does seem pretty bizarre, and sometimes that gives me pause, and I start to wonder if I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that I have to constantly check myself and remind myself that it is worthwhile and that I do have faith in this project, and it's taking a lot of mental energy to sustain the commitment that I have made to it. And while those thoughts were swimming around my mind, I decided that one of the things I really need actually is communal support. So I figured that I'm really shooting myself in the foot by kind of working on it alone, sort of in a vacuum, without really sharing. I just realized the other day that only like 3 people have seen the entirety of the work I've completed so far, and nobody has even read it in consecutive, like nobody's even read the pages consecutively. So I suddenly realized that I feel quite alone sometimes, and that's why I decided to revisit the idea of posting it publicly and probably doing it sooner rather than later. And one of the most important things I had to solve before deciding to make the public posts again is including a comment section, because that's one of the things that I think I really messed up on last year when I was posting the prologue, because I don't know, it was just so like I planned everything so thoroughly. I mean, as thoroughly as I could at the time, and that's just my level of thoroughness, I guess. But yeah, essentially I put a lot of work leading up to the release, but then I never could figure out at the time how to include comments on my actual website that is public and free to read. This is seeming really stupid to me now after all this time, because I guess I just thought that the only way to do it was to make the pages as blog posts, and that's something I couldn't figure out how to do visually in a way that I liked, so I abandoned that idea. And then after like looking into it very briefly and feebly and asking a couple of people, I figured that I just don't know how to include comments, and I guess that's the end of the day, and I never really looked at it again. But that was a crucial mistake, because honestly getting feedback and getting some sort of engagement for the pages for me is so important. It's like the most important type of feedback that I've ever had, basically. Like, I care way more about comments about the pages rather than any other art that I do or put effort into or have posted before. So I think it's really kind of dumb that I let that opportunity for people to let me know what they think about the prologue and, you know, how they felt about finishing reading it. And it's just, I feel like I missed out on that opportunity. And even though I did get some comments on Instagram, of course, it was more scattered because I didn't post actual pages on Instagram. And long story short, I decided to take this problem more seriously and figure out how to actually add comments this time before I started posting chapter 1 publicly. And thankfully, I was able to find a solution pretty quickly. The only thing that sucks is that it is a paid plugin that I have to essentially, like, it's like a monthly payment sort of thing, but I think it's definitely worthwhile because I do not want to post pages on my website again and not give people the opportunity to leave a comment if they like the story and they have something to say about it, you know what I mean? So I'm glad that I was able to figure that out, and now I feel very, I don't know, I just feel much better about it, because I just felt like I was in this place where Instagram is not a good platform to share the comic on, to me, because the screen is so small and the formatting is so limited, and I don't want to post it on Instagram to read anyways. So I was like lamenting the fact that I couldn't get a proper comment section on the actual website, and now having finally solved that, I feel like I'm ready to go. And yeah, on the one hand, it is a little bit difficult that I'm unable to monetize this project properly at the moment. Like, I am super grateful for everybody who's supporting me on Patreon, and that helps a lot. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's not sustainable for me, which is not the end of the world, because I can still work for a long time before it becomes a problem. However, I don't want to wait until it becomes a problem, so I want to just get back into social media, try to kind of talk about it more, try to show it more, and actually start posting chapter 1 again. And even though it does pain me to post 1 page at a time, because I feel super impatient because I want to share the story with you guys so badly, unfortunately, because of how long it takes to make each page, that is just the only chance that I have. And I am most excited about this Kickstarter project, where I will be able to pool all the pages into a beautiful book, and that's something I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, wish me luck. I think this has been going relatively well, all things considered, and even though I am slightly behind schedule at this point, I think I can still go according to plan and just figure everything out. And the most important thing for me is not to rush and to just do it right, and to make sure that it's work that I can be proud of. And yeah, I can't wait till the first chapter is fully up. And of course, I have to mention that if you want to start reading it, I think we're up to like 8 pages or 7 pages at this point on Patreon, so that's exciting. And yeah, I'm almost on chapter 1, gonna jump into chapter 2 very soon. And yeah, thank you guys so much for still being there and rooting for me. It means a lot to me, and I'm gonna try to be more active on social media and post more over there. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. It took me forever to ink these pages, but it was a very good warm-up because I did get much faster after this. And yeah, glad to share the process with you, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!